Mike, when we first started this project, I didn't realize how some of these stories would affect me emotionally as I was putting together the rundown. And the one that we're going to talk about today definitely put me in some sort of mood. And we are talking about Back in Black, Amy Winehouse,
Back to Black.
2000,
I,
back,
is
back,
it?
back to Black. Um, what's Back in Black?
That's the AC/DC album.
Okay, that's right.
Also, I think it's also a Houdini album. So you're not wrong for using that title.
Uh, I guess technically, uh, if Amy was back in black, she would have been. I don't know. I don't know what that would have been referenced to. It wouldn't have made much sense based on what Back to Black is about. And you know
Yes.
what? We're not even going to cut this. We're going to let this live because
Hey,
we make mistakes. I make mistakes, and it's probably a little funny to some people that
that
I called it the
that's
wrong name.
that's the human part of this.
So back to kind of what I was saying is that part of my research in talking about this album is watching the documentary that came out in the mid 2010s about her, which was that was tough. That was a tough watch. Sad story all the way through the end. And then also that documentary tackles a lot of the early things that she dealt with as a young child,
Right.
going through bulimia, and her mom and literally telling her mom, like, yeah, this is kind of what I do. It's kind of fun. And her mom just thinking like, oh, it's just a phase. I'm not going to step in here. Wild. And then the movie that came out a couple of years ago, which is not good, by the way.
Wait, like a biopic?
It was a biopic that came out a couple of years ago. It is on one of the streaming platforms that I watched it on.
I don't remember that at all, but probably better off not
Bet
knowing it existed.
Better off not checking it out. Unnecessary for this project. I just kind of wanted to see, after watching the documentary, what this movie was really about, and it exists to exist, and we'll talk about this later. It didn't need to happen. It was whatever reason you do, money or whatever. That's the reason.
Most biopics don't need to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back an album. Amy releases Frank. Were you aware of this album? Because this album did not cross over into the US.
I don't think Frank was released in the US until after Back to Black was released in the
Right.
US. So I was not familiar with Amy Winehouse at all. Had to do a little bit of digging once I discovered and started to enjoy Back to Black, and then was like, oh, she has a whole other album. So yeah, had no clue beforehand.
So you were aware of Amy. Would you have heard Rehab? Would you have seen something as far as it just in the press, or maybe in a magazine or something?
Here's how I remember it. It was 2005. I had sort of just started working where I still work, 21 years later. And there was a coworker who had gotten the import of the album and was like, yo, check this out, and played it. And I was completely blown away. So I immediately kind of went out to look for it. And near our office at that time, there was a Virgin Megastore, RIP Virgin Megastore. And I, I think I might have bought the import of the CD like that day, or maybe the day after. Because, we had no concept of when it was going to be released in the US, or if it was going to be released in the US. I mean, it was a different time, which is weird because we're only talking 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But there were plenty of albums that came out in the UK or in other foreign territories that never got a release in the US. So we didn't know what was going to happen with it. But I was so, I fell so in love with the album so fast that I just like, I'll, pay $25 for an import CD of this.
Explain to the people, to our people, especially the young people, what a CD import was.
I assume and hope that everyone listening or watching knows what a CD is. If it wasn't for the fact that my entire CD collection is in boxes right now, I would actually pull out a CD and show it to you. Um, but CDs were how most of us consumed music in the 90s
The
and
compact
2000s.
disc.
Yes. Yeah. Uh, and an import would have been something that was, produced or released in another country. That, certain record stores did really, really big business on imports because a lot of times there were albums and certainly singles that you couldn't find in the US. Like, to circle back to another discussion we had, like if you wanted Killing Me Softly by the Fugees on a CD single, you had to buy the import, and the import was probably not going to cost you much less than the actual full album.
Right. Yeah. So if you went to Tower Records, they had a section specifically of
Or imports.
imports, and you
Yes.
can kind of dig through there. And in many cases, you could see, like, if you, in like the Amy Winehouse example, like, it's kind of like, oh, is this thing going to cross over into the US? And if it does, you were able to buy the import and hear it first.
Right.
So, all right. So, we'll come back to Frank and Back to Black and all that stuff. But I just want to point this thing out. So Amy Winehouse passes away, and we're kind of going backwards here. July 23rd, 2011, and she was 27 years old. And here's how the mind can work sometimes. Because
Mhm.
I was very aware of, like, I was listening to everything at this point in these years of, mid 2000s to early 2010s. And my mind kind of was as I was researching this, my mind was telling me that she didn't pass away much long after the famous Grammys performance.
Mm-mm,
And
that
when
was
I went back and I was reading all of the stuff and watching the stuff, I was like, "No, it was like more than 3 years later." And I think it's because, when artists die, there's like this second life of posthumous albums and records, like Tupac, for instance. Like,
sure.
there's more Tupac music post-death than there was pre-death. And there wasn't much with Amy when it came to that. There was an album, I think in 2011-ish time frame, or no, 20, it was after she had passed away, but I think, Mark Ronson and Salaam Remi put together some previous works that could have probably been on the 3rd album if she'd ever completed it. But other than that, like, you didn't hear anything about her. So in my mind's playing tricks on me, Ghetto Boy style, I was just like, she must have died very soon after that, because nothing came out. And no, that is
That is
not
not
true.
true. Right.
More than 3 years later, she passed away. So, yeah, that was, as I was doing this, I was like, "Man, what happened to my brain in those 3 years when she was, kind of dealing with all of her demons and such?"
I mean, I think the further you get from the time something happens, the more things jumble together.
No, I'm sure of it. And you know what I always blame? I always blame having young kids,
Mm,
because your focus is so much on their day to day that you recognize things that happen, movies, music, sports, but like that same way that I would look at something when I was like 13 or 14, where my own life was the only thing I cared about. Like, having young kids changes your brain when it comes to processing information, for
of
sure.
course.
Okay, so the album of Back to Black, the album is born out of just frustration, addiction, uh her not being happy with her current situation, depression, the abuse, and exacerbated by this relationship that she had with the man who would become her husband, Blake Fielder Civil. So Blake and Amy were together, but kind of Blake had left. I think he was in a relationship, and then he went to Amy, and then he went back. So she's dealing with, like, the heartbreak of Blake, and, like, that is, like, the genesis of where she gets everything for her songwriting for Back to Black, is like this loss of relationship. And after Back to Black comes out, like, they do eventually get married
Get
after
married.
this,
Yeah.
but, like, he's the real focus of this album, and I always find that interesting. Just and this will come down the line because we're going to do an episode on Tupac Shakur for All Eyes on Me, and I can tease this here, but I did an interview with the author of the new Tupac biography, Jeff Pearlman. And as I was talking to him, the one thing he kept hitting on is like, just think of how young this dude was when he was saying all of these very smart things and all of
Bro.
these wild things. Like this man was in his mid 20s. And the
Yeah.
same thing with Amy. She's creating this great art, but she's making decisions in the mind of someone who's like in their young to mid 20s. And in some cases you see the brilliance, but in other cases you really see the downfall. And so that's kind of like the theme for me of this album is this young person creating fantastic art and just being unable to get out of her own way in other parts of her life.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, the the lyrical content of the album is all very comes from a place of heartbreak and disappointment. And for whatever reason, she was super, super in love with this cat. And the fortunate thing, I guess, for us is that we got a great album out of it. The unfortunate thing for her is that you know the combination of whatever happened with that relationship, plus her addiction, plus maybe not knowing what to do with the success that she had, just kind of is what tore it all apart.
All right, let's dig in. Before we even talk about the album, I just want to dig into a couple of what happened in 2006
Yeah,
in
really.
the world of music. And so, Mike, I'll read some of this stuff. You can crack wise whenever you want to crack wise.
Oh
And
boy.
maybe you want to crack wise after this first one, which is January 14th, 2006. Eminem remarries ex-wife Kim after 5 years of separation, and he must have killed her like 6 or 7 times in his songs, right?
I didn't realize that they got remarried. I must have
Me
known it at
neither.
the time,
Me
but
neither.
wild.
The Grammys, the 48th annual Grammys, February 8th. U2 is the night's big winner with 5 awards, including Album of the Year for How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. And Mariah Carey won 3 of her 8, her first Grammys since 1991.
Hmm.
Kelly Clarkson, the first American Idol contestant ever to win a Grammy in the 2006 Grammy Awards. Okay, so let's see. James Blunt,
Oof, boy.
dot, dot, dot. I was waiting for
Wow.
your response. With
Yeah.
his single, You're Beautiful, becomes the first British artist to top the US Billboard Hot 100 chart since Elton John with Candle in the Wind 9 years
Wow.
earlier.
Wow.
What a fact, huh?
That is a weird fact.
So, of all of the songs, or if this was a trivia question, how long would it have taken you to get to James Blunt and You're Beautiful to find that answer?
D- You know, my brain doesn't remember that James Blunt existed, and I'm not gonna front. There was a brief point in time when You're Beautiful was first out, and I was like, "Oh, like I like this song." I remember going into a and I don't remember what the name of the record store is now. It was like a used record store, and I found a copy of his album on CD for like $2.99, and it had just come out.
Wow, that should have told you something, though.
I mean, you know, but I was like, "Oh, I caught a break here." So I
Yeah.
bought the album. I don't even know if I might have listened to it, reviewed it on Opinions, and never listened to it again. Um, but yeah, it's. I mean, I think even he makes fun of it now. I mean, and he's uh, I think still performing, still touring, still doing stuff.
Good
So
for him.
good for James. I was about to say the same thing.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
April 5th, Eminem files for divorce from wife Kim less than 3 months after they were married for the second time.
Mm-mm.
So that's why you don't remember.
I guess that's yeah.
Mary J. Blige, April 15th, Be Without You ends its 15th week at number 1 on the US Billboard R&B chart, making it the most successful R&B song in history. Did you know that fact?
I know that it was at number one for a really, really long time.
Good for Mary, man.
Yeah, good. I mean,
We'll have
we'll
some
talk
Mary
about
Mary
Mary
conversations.
later. We'll talk
Yeah,
about Mariah later. We've got all
absolutely.
that stuff coming up.
Ice Cube's first album in 6 years, Laugh Now, Cry Later, is released on Lynch Mob Records. The album debuted in the top 5, 144,000 copies in the first week. And the only reason I mention this is because by 2006, I think most people, if they didn't know his previous career, just figured he was an actor by then.
Actor.
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, by very early in the 21st century, no one had any interest in Ice Cube as a rapper anymore. Ice
Right.
Cube was the guy from Friday, and whatever Players Club, and Are We There Yet, or whatever.
Uh, June 19th, Taylor Swift released her first single, Tim McGraw, at the age of 16. There will be another Taylor reference in this podcast. By
Little
the way.
did we know what we were unleashing.
Yes. Backstreet Boys member Kevin Richardson leaves the group to pursue other interests. What other interests would those have been in
That happened in 2006.
2006? He would come back 6 years later.
I thought that happened way before. I thought that happened when the Backstreet Boys were still like popular, like at the height of their popularity.
But if you're Kevin Richardson, like, are you trying to go solo? Are you going into acting? Like, what are you trying to do at that point? Maybe he's just like, this is too much. I need to raise a family. I don't know. What is it? What
Maybe,
would
I
you
mean, I'm assuming that he just kind of stepped back to like have kids, raise a family, like take care of his, do some self care or whatever. I don't recall hearing about him doing anything creative during that period, or I mean, at all. I mean, Kevin Richardson's just like one of
yeah.
the oldest Backstreet Boy. That's kind of all I know of him.
July 7th, Justin Timberlake releases Sexy Back, which goes to the top of the Billboard 100 for 7 weeks.
Height of Jason's popular. I mean, look, I fuck with Justin Timberlake.
You do.
Even though it, I'm sure there are people that will drag me for that, and let them drag me. But I enjoy Justin Timberlake. I enjoyed Sexy Back. I enjoyed that album. So I mean, first time I heard Sexy Back, I was like, this is weird. But then the rest of the album, or like 2/3 of the rest of the album anyway, I was like, oh, this is decent. He's all right.
September 3rd, Beyonce releases her second consecutive number 1 solo album, B-Day, selling 541,000 copies in its first week. What do you remember about B-Day?
Not much. I'm like, as you were talking, I'm trying to like think back, like what was on that album. Uh, that was the one with like Upgrade You on it. I'm assuming you have like you have the information in
Ring
front of
the
you.
Alarm was definitely on that album.
Okay. You know, I remember I had a coworker. She was an intern. Um, and she wrote a whole parody song of Ring the Alarm about cockroaches. And that is the thing that I most remember about Ring the Alarm. But yeah, I mean, B Day was also like a decent record.
Okay, so here's what I wanted to look this up because I wanted to make sure that I was 100% right about this.
Mm.
Irreplaceable is on this album.
Ooh, I don't like
So
that.
but your boy wrote it.
I mean, I
Neo.
love Neo.
Yeah.
It to me, you know, I might have liked that song better if Neo had kept it for himself.
It would have been an interesting song if he did that song for sure.
Right.
The other thing about this is a movie that is very near and dear to my heart from this time frame is Dreamgirls. And
Mm,
she has the Listen song on this album. I don't know if it's an extended version or the normal version or whatever, but that
wow,
that is on this album as well.
that's crazy. You know, we're talking about 2006, and I'm like, oh, that was like yesterday, but it was 20 years ago. There's so much I've forgotten.
That I still can watch that movie whenever, you know, if I ever need to see like 'cause you get an Eddie Murphy performance that is like off the
Oscar,
chain. Yeah,
Oscar nominated,
they
and
do. It's
can't
good.
forget about Jennifer Hudson, winning the Oscar. The first of her, the first step in her EGOT.
Yes. She was amazing. Gosh.
Mhm.
Um, October 24th, Taylor Swift releases her debut self-titled album at the age of 16. How many albums do you think it sold during the first week?
Probably not many. 50,000, 60,000.
39,000.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything else?
Now it's 2026. Taylor Swift probably sells 39,000 records every hour.
I know because she's got like 30 versions of the same album
Right. Yes.
for all the for all the crazies. I think that's about it. That's good for the history of 2006. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the making of this album, um, Back to Black. So I found the origin story of how she recorded it is fascinating because it's recorded, even though it debuts in the UK, the entire album is recorded in the United States.
Yep.
So you have the New York sessions with Mark Ronson, and then you have the Miami sessions with Salaam Remi. And do you know where which studio in New York that they recorded these songs with Mark Ronson?
I do not know. I'm assuming it was either the Hit Factory or uh this is sad. Hit Factory or Electric Lady.
I'll give you a clue. LL Cool J named this studio.
Did they record it at Chungking?
Chungking Studios.
Oh,
It's actually, recorded at Chungking Studios and Daptone Records in New York.
that makes sense. I mean, Back to Black was really the album that put the whole like Brooklyn soul scene on the map with like the Dap Kings and also Sharon Jones, rest in peace to her. But like that whole scene got a huge boost because of Mark Ronson and Amy Winehouse. I mean, Mark Ronson got a boost because of Amy
Oh,
Winehouse.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wasn't for Back to Black, we wouldn't have Uptown Funk.
Oh, yeah. Like, there's definitely a line from Amy Winehouse to a lot of artists who
Yeah,
give her credit, one of them being one of the biggest artists in the world in Adele. Like, Adele literally says 90% of her career is owed to listening to Frank. Like,
similarly, I remember being at work, and it's funny, I'm a sidetrack for a minute on the On That Note podcast, which
our
we're
guy.
going to reference a bunch of times. Sean Stockman from Boyz II Men. Recent episode, he was talking, I think, to Tony Rich, and
I'm saving that one. I can't wait for that one.
yeah, and they're talking about being in going through the offices of like record companies, and everybody would be playing music and you get to discover stuff and hear stuff. And that's how I found out about Adele. Again, it was a situation where her first album was released in the UK, and then a few months later it was released in the US. And I remember our A&R person, who is still with the company in his 70s, um, was playing that an import of that first Adele album, and I just walked over and I was like, "Yo, what is this?" Um, and that whole wave of British female singers, like it kicked off with Amy Winehouse. So I mean, it's kind of safe to say Adele is kind of like the sanitized for your protection version of Amy Winehouse,
Yes, for
the
sure.
G-rated Amy Winehouse.
Well, and also somebody who maybe was better built to handle insane success just
Right,
fundamentally, right?
right,
All right. Well, I will mention Adele later because I have a question for you
okay.
about that. All right, and we'll also come back to Ronson and Remy because I'm interested in which songs you like better, but I'll group them together for you in another question as we go down the line here. Okay,
Cool.
so the UK release of this album, October 27th, 2006. Amy said that she wanted Ronson to record her to sound like the 60s girl groups she loved, the Shangri-Las and the Ronettes. And I think the Ronettes, kind of like that beehive hairdo was also, that's where that came from as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the album debuts at number 3 on the UK albums chart. It didn't actually hit number 1 until the following January, so a little bit of a slow burn, and Rehab kind of becomes a giant hit, and that helps with the sales. And it doesn't release into the United States until March 13th, 2007, so like 6 months, almost 6 months later. And the delay, actually 5 months, the delay was so that A, she could get a US visa, and B, she could use that visa to go on shows that would matter still at this time, like The
Right.
Tonight Show and David Letterman, so that, she could be on broadcast television that people actually watched. What would that be today? Like if you were to run the same playbook, like is there like a show that someone would go on today? Would you go on like a Hot
I mean,
Ones or something on YouTube? Like what is that for today?
to hit mainstream America, I mean, everything is so fragmented now. Um, there's still, I mean, obviously late night TV for now anyway still exists. So, if you go on Kimmel or you go on Jimmy Fallon, like that's probably one of your best ways to get any sort of audience in bulk. Other than that, you're doing podcasts, so like Hot Ones.
Yeah.
But Hot Ones isn't going to give like a a new artist or developing artist like that kind of stage. Like Hot Ones is for pretty big stars. Whereas the late night talk shows will still book you if they'll book you if you're buzzing but haven't like blown up. Or SNL. SNL might be kind of one of the biggest like conduits to reach a really large audience now.
Here's what we should do.
Go
Everyone
on
should just
SNL
no, everyone should
because
just subscribe to this channel, blow us up, and then we'll just bring on all the new acts on this channel, and they can talk
nah,
about their music.
I'm down with that. I mean, we could theoretically go on SNL because I think everybody darker than cardboard left that show except Keenan.
He's gonna be there forever.
Yeah, Keenan's going to be there until we're all dead.
Oh man. Yeah, what's up with that? I know, 'cause you're an SNL guy.
Exactly. What's up with that? Um,
Good one.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, that show in of itself, like, when you blow up, you kinda leave, and now today, because whenever, there's this political climate that they like to satire, eh, you kind of bring in all these old people who aren't on the show week to week back to do certain characters, and I wonder if that kind of stalls some of the growth from the newbies, and they're just like, "This is not worth it." Like, every time I wanna do something, they're just gonna bring Tina Fey back to do it, so I don't even have the chance. Like, I wonder how much of that is that.
Maybe it's also so much easier for a comedian to like blow up in a different way now. You can start your own podcast. You can do all this other stuff. You can take your success and build on that a lot more quickly than you were able to back in the day when, you were pretty much just waiting to get like a sitcom deal or something like that. So,
And yeah, and that's no shot at Tina Fey, because Tina Fey's amazing and
yeah,
great. She was
TFA's
the
dope.
first person I
Yeah.
thought of. All right, so the interesting thing is when you first, I'm assuming that I would have had the CD, I think. Would have had the CD or would have downloaded it from iTunes? I'm trying to think about how I would have bought this album. Because what I remember is I remember on the version that I bought, there was a version of "You Know I'm No Good" with Ghostface on it.
Ghostface. Yeah.
But if you go to Apple Music today, that version does not exist.
Really?
I think the Ghostface song is out there on, they're on different versions of it. But like, if you just were like, "Oh, I want to look up Back to Black," the version that I see on Apple Music has a song called "Addicted," which was on the UK release, but was not on the US release. It was actually scrapped in favor of the
The
Ghostface
remix?
track. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, my CD copy definitely has the Ghostface remix on it. My vinyl copy, I think, has the Ghostface remix on it.
I
Um,
just listened to the vinyl. You know what? It's mine is right here. Let me pull it up.
all right.
Y'all can see that.
Oh, look at that.
I'm not lying. Um, you know what? On the vinyl that I have, there are only 10
10 song?
tracks,
Oh, then it's
and
not there.
the Ghostface song is on here and
It
not
is?
Addicted. Yes. So it would be, yeah, it would be the last track on
Mhm,
side 2. So
mhm.
yeah, I don't know why the current Apple Music version is different, but I know Amy really wanted Addicted to be on the US version, and she was kind of bummed that they replaced it on the
Mm.
US version. Um, and well, you mentioned imports. Because the album was released in the UK first, it became a massive import item at record stores. Amoeba, maybe that was the one you were thinking of.
For
Uh,
for what?
You were saying you don't remember what record store you would have, oh, no, you might have been talking about the Adele one. You don't remember what record store you were at or something.
No,
Um,
I mean, it's definitely in New York, which means Amoeba would not have been it. Um,
Virgin?
yeah, it was Virgin that I, bought the Amy Winehouse import at.
And American music celebrities like Jay-Z and Questlove and DJs were playing the UK import months before it was available, which created that cool factor for the album upon release. So
Yeah.
people knew about her before it came out because there was a buzz that was created
Yeah,
with
she
that
was
that
she
import
was
sale.
definitely bubbling.
All right, so Rehab, the song Rehab, everyone knows that. Everyone knows the hook. When I hear the story of the hook, and even when I hear the song, it still makes me sad, man, because she said, the way that they created the hook is Amy was talking to Mark Ronson about her family trying to make her go to rehab, and she used the line in talking to Mark Ronson, "They tried to make me go to rehab, and I was like, 'No, no, no.'" And Ronson stopped her and said, "That's catchy. We should try to make that into a song."
Maybe he should have said, "Get your ass into rehab."
Right. That's like, and now, of course, looking back, I'm sure he thinks that as well. But man, that like that whole story of this song. And then so Jay-Z's also on a Rehab remix, and I was
Mhm.
listening to that because I hadn't heard that in a while. And all of Jay-Z's punchlines are about like 12 steps and rehab and like, being on drugs. And I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know. It's tough, tough. But she was kind of parroting herself in a way with this song in a very catchy way.
Right.
And because, when you were talking about Adele, that's not something Adele would have done. Adele would not have put her stuff out there like that. But that's what separated the two. And, to Amy, maybe that's what people are like, oh man, she's talking about her stuff right on this song. Like she's not hiding from anything.
Mhm.
So wild, just wild. Um, there's an interesting thing about her pops. What do you know about Amy's pops?
I've read things in the past. I remember literally nothing about it, uh, at this point.
So he's away from her life in her early years, and then he kind of comes back into her life, and he becomes kind of her, what would you say? He's the person that she looks up to. Well, she has her grandmother, but her grandmother passes away, and her grandmother was a musician, I believe, as well. But the dad, because he had been gone and then he came back, like, she was, like, trying to keep him, I'm assuming, and that's
Mm.
why she held on so hard, which is human and very understandable.
Mhm.
But he was, like, the guy who was the ear. Like, she was making music saying, "Okay, what do you think?" Because I think he was, like, a taxi driver or something.
That
So
sounds right.
so she would make the song, everyone would say, "Okay, were done, and she would go, "No, put this on CD. I need to take it to my dad, and he needs to drive around in his taxi. And if we hear it in the taxi over all the noisy things going on in the street, and we could hear it really well, then I know that if it could sound good in a taxi in traffic, that it would sound good anywhere." And that's how she
Mm,
kind of would like put the exclamation point on, like, okay, this mix is right.
okay.
We'll talk a little bit more about the dad because there's some funky stuff about dad coming
Mm-hmm.
too. All right. So we like to do this segment, which I like to call the Grammys Redux. So Amy, now this is the 2008 Grammys because it's based on the U.S. release, and the
Right.
U.S. release is in 2007. So she wins 3 of the top 4 general field categories. She wins Record of the Year for Rehab. Now here's the competition: the aforementioned Beyonce, Irreplaceable; Foo Fighters, The Pretender; Jay-Z or Rihanna and Jay-Z, Umbrella; and Justin Timberlake, What Goes Around Comes Around. Did they get this one right?
Yeah. Rehab's the best to me. Rehab is my favorite record of those 5 for
Me
sure.
too.
They're
Me
all
too.
they're all good songs. What was it? Was Rihanna, Timberlake,
Foo
Foo
Fighters
Fighters,
and Beyonce.
Beyonce. I mean, again, I'm not super crazy about Irreplaceable, and that might also just be because that song got run into the
Oh
ground.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, but to me, Rehab is to me Rehab is the best song.
Okay. Song of the Year, Amy Winehouse, songwriter. She's the sole writer of this song. She wins for Rehab again. The competition, Carrie Underwood, Before He Cheats, songwriters Josh Keir and Chris Tompkins; Plain White Tees, Hey There Delilah, songwriter Tom Higginson; Corin Bailey Ray, Like a Star, she was the writer of that song; and Rihanna's Umbrella, songwriters Jay-Z, Cuck Harrell, Tyrius, Dream Nash, and Christopher Stewart.
Okay, I mean that's a songwriting award. Rehab is probably the best written song. Um, I don't even think there's really any competition there.
Yeah, I think they got it right too.
Yeah.
All right, best new artist. This is where Taylor Swift comes back into play. The winner, Amy Winehouse. The rest of the field: Feist, Ledisi. Is it Ledisi or Ledesi?
It's Lettucey.
Ledisi,
Yeah.
Paramore, and Taylor Swift.
I mean, I am a huge Paramore
Yeah, I
fan,
like Paramore a
but
lot too.
and I'm not. I run hot and cold on Taylor. Um, I think they got it right. Like in terms of, I can't even like reverse justify that. Like there's no way that based on either their debut records or the careers they've had up to this point, there's no way that Amy Winehouse to me is not like the best of the bunch.
The one that she did lose, though, Album
Oh,
of the
album of the
Year.
year, yeah.
So the nominees were obviously Amy Winehouse, Kanye West's Graduation, Foo Fighters, Echo Silence, Patience and Grace, Vince Gill, These Days, and the winner, Herbie Hancock, River, the Joni Letters.
What do I want to say here? There is a long history of Grammy Awards being won by people where like the folks that vote are like, hey, you've done all this great work throughout your career. We're going to award you for this particular piece of work, even though it's not the most deserving. Um, and I feel like that's what happened with Herbie Hancock. I mean, I have familiarity with all of those albums except for Vince Gill. Um,
That
I
one
think,
seems like they're just like, we need a country album in this thing.
yeah, seriously, yeah. Um, that award was pretty much in Amy Winehouse Kanye West conversation. And even if I put my biases against Kanye to the side, I still think Back to Black's a better record.
You could talk me into Kanye's first 2 albums
Yeah,
possibly being close to Back to Black, but not that 3rd album.
yeah,
The 3rd album's good, but
yeah. Graduation's a very, very good record.
he's already he's not the hungry young artist anymore. He's like the very successful dude, and you can't tell him nothing. That's
Yeah.
the version of Kanye on that album.
Yes. Yes.
Um, all right, so, the sales, the album has sold over 20 million copies globally. In the UK, it sold 4 million copies, making it the second best-selling album of the 21st century in the UK, trailing only Adele's 21, and it is currently the 12th best-selling album in UK history.
Wow.
It is certified, 2 times platinum in the US, um, and it never went to number 1 in the US on the Billboard 200. It got to number 2 after this Grammys night that she had. And it's a Grammys night in which she was not even allowed in the US to
Right.
perform
Right.
because she could not get a visa because of some of the problems that she was going through.
Right.
And she had to perform from London. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And she was at a little club and they did the rehab song. And that's how, if you hadn't seen Amy, that's how you were introduced to Amy.
Right.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, her issues were already starting to like overshadow the music, even at that point. I remember one of the awards that she won. It was the presenter was Natalie Cole, and Natalie Cole said something in the press about how as an ex addict, it felt really like weird to have someone be rewarded for basically being a drug addled mess. Um, like she was a little critical of all the adulation that Amy Winehouse got for the Grammys. But I mean, look, realistically speaking, like the Grammys ain't here to award you based on your personal choices.
Right.
They're here based. I mean, not that they do a good job rewarding quality music all the time, but the idea should be to award the music regardless of what is happening with the person that's making it. To the grant awards literally are separate the art from the artist.
Sure. Should be
Um,
should be a merit thing.
right, right. So I understood what she was trying to say, but I don't think what she said really held any water there.
So Rehab was the only single in the US to go top 10. It peaked at number 9. You Know I'm No Good would get to 77. But in the UK, uh, all of the singles that were released were at least in the top 50. Love is a Losing Game originally peaked at 46 in the UK, but then when she passed away, it jumped back up to 33. So this is the part of the story that I was most interested in because I did not know a lot about, and it is what happens after the Grammys from that 3-year period from the post Grammys until she passes away. I know she's dealing with a lot of her addiction and she's dealing with the fallout of marriage and all of that stuff. But musically, there's some interesting things that I would have assumed were happening, but were really not happening. Like she's not recording a ton during this period of time. So in May of 2007, she marries Blake Fielder Civil in Miami. They eventually divorced in 2009, so a couple of years there. She becomes a fixture in London's Camden Town, and her struggles with addiction becomes increasingly public, leading to canceled tours and hospitalizations for exhaustion and issues with her voice. And she's out there performing when she's kind of messed up, and her very loyal fan base is seeing her kind of break down in front of them, which had to be just crazy if you're a fan
Yeah,
of an artist to see that.
yeah, man. I mean, as we're talking and as we were leading up to this, I was thinking about how all of the she'd go out on stage, and this is the beginning of camera phones and all that stuff. So all of this stuff is very accessible via the internet, and it's just like tragic. And it felt like, we know the internet is not the world's greatest place now. We know you shouldn't live in comment sections. We know that those things bring out like really bad parts of humanity. But back then, it wasn't as commonplace to see people just get like crapped on.
Mhm.
um and it felt like, whether it was like the music press and people commenting, like everybody just kind of had the knives out for Amy Winehouse. um and the British tabloid press in particular has always been super cruel.
Yeah.
And it just felt like, you know they were, not to say that Amy herself is not ultimately responsible for the issues that she had, but it felt like there were people coming from all sides of it that were just kind of like taking the knife and twisting it.
So here's where the documentary, the really good documentary, talks a little bit about her in her recovery attempts. So in 2009, she goes away to the island of St. Lucia. And this was a period where she was kind of using it for peace, to be away from drugs and to be writing and to try and find a healthier environment away from the tabloids, like you were suggesting. Except alcohol was seemingly around at this point. And when I was mentioning her dad, I want to bring him back in, and this is in the doc. He decides to come to the island, and he's also filming a reality TV show at this point. So she's trying to get away from a lot of this noise, and he's coming to this island with cameras at the same time.
They don't give you a license to parent,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes I'm like, maybe they should.
So I mentioned the denied U.S. visa for the Grammys.
Mm.
So supposedly this stems from there was an arrest with her and Blake in Norway because they had marijuana on them, and then they paid the fine. And under U.S. immigration law, paying the fine is basically saying that you are
It's a
guilty
guilty. Hmm.
of what you did.
Hmm.
And so there was also, going back to tabloids, there was a video in January of her. The Sun published a video of Amy using some sort of illegal substance in her own home. So the camera had to go in her house to publish what she was doing in her home. And then, so this video led to an investigation, um, and it kind of like intent, like the embassy's concerns. They were already having concerns about whether or not Amy should get a visa. This thing gets published, so actually they overturn the embassy overturns the decision, grants the visa 2 days before the Grammys, and so they just figured like it's going to be too hard to get there. I think also Amy was in some sort of care at this point, and so they
Mm.
didn't wanna change that. She's all of a sudden, she's gonna be at the Grammys and be a all on stage and with this crowd and everything. So they're like, "No, we'll do the thing that we're gonna do, which is we'll film it from London, or we'll shoot it, broadcast it from London, and, we'll do it that way." So that, like, this woman was, whatever she was doing in her house, people had, like, the rights to shoot their camera inside of her house and publish.
That is insane. Um, this is why I would never want to be famous,
Yeah.
just because you don't like your life isn't your own anymore. And all of these just like snaky people are just going to crawl out of the woodwork and destroy your humanity just for the purpose of making a dollar.
And that person who got that video for that story, I'm sure made a ton of money for
Right.
getting that.
Right.
Okay, so the idea of music that she possibly was making, there were sessions for a third album, both Ronson and Remi. Um, she had some plans to work with Questlove, um, She actually did complete some tracks. There's a track with Nas called "Like Smoke."
Mhm.
There's a track called "Between the Cheats" that were fully finished. There's a story that the CEO of the label, like, had a bunch of unfinished demos and just destroyed them because 'cause he'd never wanted them to come out unfinished. That's interesting.
That's honorable.
Yeah. Um, so anything posthumous, that had come out, so obviously everyone remembers the, jazz duet with her and Tony
Tony
Bennett,
Bennett. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which
and
I think came out, like, right before she passed away.
Tony Bennett has said he was like, she was so nervous, but she was such a natural born jazz singer. She did a song called "It's My Party" on a Quincy Jones tribute
Mhm.
album, and then there's this album that comes out, right after she passes called, Lioness: Hidden
Right, Hidden
Treasures,
Treasures, yeah.
which I never really listened to until recently, and it's actually really, really good.
It's good. I mean, they just kinda picked and chose a bunch of stuff from, like, different periods. It's a lot of covers, but it's a solid record.
There's a different version of Valerie on there.
Mhm.
There's a slowed down version of Tears Dry on there. There's the Nas song that I mentioned on there. So there's some really good stuff on there. Obviously, it's not what the third album would have been because they only had a few things to work with. But I commend them because a lot of times those posthumous albums are just, you know like, again, going back to the Tupac stuff,
Tupac,
like,
yeah.
you're like, maybe he would have done this. I'm not sure
Probably not.
I'm
Probably not.
not sure he would have asked Eminem to produce a song on his
Yeah.
that kinda
I'm
thing.
I'm just thinking back to, like, that first Michael album that came out after he passed away, where it was ultimately revealed that some of those songs that they say Mike is singing on
Yeah.
probably don't have Mike singing on them, and
And
they've
why
all
why
been
would they
removed.
do that? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
That story is wild to
Mhm.
have a sound alike on the album when you have the dude, like, you have all of his vocals that you could possibly wanna use.
Right.
So,
Didn't make any sense.
all right. Now here's some questions that I have for you. You've listened to Frank. Also, obviously, the reason why we're recording Back to Black. Uh, which album do you like better?
Back to Black, no question. I mean, Frank is a good album. Like, I legit remember reviewing Frank for Opinions and giving it 5 stars.
Mhm,
Um, it's not an album I go back to a lot, and I should probably fix that.
mhm.
Like, it's a good piece of music. Um, Back to Black just hits different. I mean, Back to Black is one of my favorite albums of all time, and Frank is just a very good album.
You know who reps for Frank over Back to Black is, our old friend Almar.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, he was when Back to Black came out, if I'm remembering this time frame correctly, he was the one who was telling me about Frank. And he was in on from very early in Amy's career.
Yeah, Almar is like a hardcore R&B head,
Yeah,
so, you
totally.
know, big up Almar.
Yeah, Almar. I had another person who saw, a clip of us doing this podcast, my buddy Dewin, and he was like, "Y'all are the youngest soon to be 50-year-olds that I think I've ever seen." So shout out to Dewin. I love that dude.
I mean, keep the compliments coming. We appreciate.
Okay, what is your favorite song on Back to Black?
Um, it cha th there's so many great songs. Um, I don't know if I could choose one. Uh, Love is a Losing Game, maybe. Like, and literally, I had 5 other songs in my head before I decided on Love is a Losing Game. Um,
Uh, that's one of my favorites.
mm,
I really love Tears Dry on Their Own.
mhm,
Um, I love Me and Mr. Jones.
mhm.
Let's see. If I was to say one, I think it's gonna be Tears Dry on Their Own for me.
Did you this might just be my brain doing some weird stuff. There's a version of Tears Dry on Their Own with her and CeeLo.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I might have to go on YouTube after we finish talking and see if I can dig that up. But there's a version with them both singing on it.
Oh, he's singing and not rhyming.
Yeah, he's singing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Um, okay. So now favorite Amy Winehouse track that is not on one of these two albums.
Um, I think it's on Lioness. There's a song called "Our Day Will Come," which was originally released in the '60s by this group called Ruby and the Romantics, and it was when I heard Amy's version of it. It was the first time I'd heard it, and since then I've heard like a million other versions. There's like
Mm,
the Dionne Warwick version. There's a version by this jazz singer called Little Jimmy Scott that's really good. There's a version by Frankie Valli. Like there's a whole bunch of different versions of it. But the first version I heard before even the original um, was Amy Winehouse, and that is probably my favorite track of hers that is not on Frank or Back to Black.
what about anything that she's guested on?
I mean, Valerie, I would have to say. Um, I mean, it's not like she was doing hooks on rap records or anything like that. Oh, there is Cherry Wine, which is on
That's mine.
which is on Life is Good. Is on Life is
Yes.
Good. Okay, I couldn't remember which Nas album it was on.
So I was
Uh,
very interested in this song because I was like, when would they have met up to record it, or were they using something that Amy recorded for a different thing?
I think it might have been that. I mean, Salaam and Nas have a long relationship. I mean,
Right.
going back, I think to Illmatic almost or before Illmatic. Um, and if I remember correctly, Nas and Amy Winehouse shared a birthday,
Mm-hmm.
September 14th. Um, so they had a connection. Uh, and I'm not sure exactly how Cherry Wine came to be. Like it sounds natural, but I do think that it was like a hook that Amy had done that they just kind of pulled out and used for this one.
I did look this up.
Oh,
Now, this is the internet, but what I could find was that in 2008, Salaam had orchestrated them meeting at a studio, and they recorded the Like Smoke collab there, and they also recorded the parts that would become Cherry Wine.
okay.
So, Amy specifically wrote and recorded the Cherry Wine chorus with the intention of Nas using it, and, she's also supposedly playing guitar on the song.
Mm, okay.
So, after she passes, I think it's the next year when Life is Good comes out, and, Nas thought, like, "Should I or shouldn't I release this thing?" And then he thought it was a really great tribute to their friendship, so he decided to put it out,
It's a
which
good song.
I think it was the right thing because after she passes, that song in of itself, and it makes sense because if it's 2008, um, there's a life to her hook in that song. She sounds like she's in good spirits
Yeah.
while in that hook. So
Yeah. I prefer that to Like Smoke. Like Smoke, you can already kind of tell that there's a little bit of a decline happening there.
okay, so now let's go back. The Mark Ronson tracks or the Salaam tracks. Now, if we were to split this album into the Ronson sessions and the Remi sessions, you have Rehab, You Know I'm No Good, Back to Black, Love is a Losing Game, Wake Up Alone, and He Can Only Hold Her from the Ronson sessions. And then you have Me and Mr. Jones, Just Friends, Tears Dry on Their Own, Some Unholy War, and Addicted in the Remi sessions. Which version do you prefer?
I mean, I'm riding with the Ronson tracks. Some Unholy War to me is the one skippable song on Back to Black. And I mean, Salam Remy is dope. Don't get me wrong. like, and probably one of the most underrated producers in like modern music history. Uh, but Ronson sunned him on this one. His tracks are really really good.
I agree with you, even though I like Tears Dry on Their Own the best, and Me and Mr. Jones is tight too, and that makes sense
Hmm.
that that's a Remy track. But I agree with you. I think the Ronson tracks
Right.
are
Speaking of again Nas connections, I've forgotten Mr. Jones in
yeah,
the title of the song is Nas.
is Nas.
Yeah.
And I wish he would have been the inspiration to "What kind of fuckery is this?"
You know, I still pop that line out every once in a while. So kudos to Amy Winehouse for
That's her signature line, right?
yeah. What kind of yeah
It's amazing.
yeah
Amazing piece of writing to open
yeah.
up a song with
So
that line.
yeah,
Okay, so you mentioned skips. Now, we created the no skips rating, so the 1 through 10, the higher the rating means that you don't skip any songs. So what would you have the no skips rating for this one?
9.5. I mean, again, like some unholy war. And if the album is playing, I'm not gonna like run over to the turntable and
Right,
move the needle.
right.
But if I'm programming it, I don't need to hear that song.
I agree with you. There's like 2 songs that I feel are maybe a little bit lesser than the others, but because this album is so lean, it's almost like I don't need like, this is not a 18-track album where you're like, "Oh my gosh, I have to hear
Right.
this song." Like, no, like, and
It's
even
the
the
way
songs themselves are short.
sure.
Yeah.
It's the way an album should be. It shouldn't be, we don't need. I'm just trying to think of like unnecessarily long albums. 10, 10, 11 tracks is the way it should be.
Mhm. And n interludes? No interludes.
No interlude. No interludes.
Okay. You mentioned that this is one of your favorite albums of all time. Where would it rank in the 2000s? It's gotta be way up there.
I mean, for 2000s, it would be certainly be in my top 10. Probably would be in my top 5. I can't off the top of my head think of an album that I like more without going into the Kanye zone, and I don't want to do that. Um,
There's some Outcast records, I think,
but even like I mean, there's only Outkast only made 2 albums or 3 in the 2000s, and Speaker Box Love Below, and I don't want to blow anything up because we may talk about that somewhere down the line. Is to talk about long albums.
yeah.
Like as much as I love certain songs on that album, I can't um I can't take it in all in like one piece.
Yeah.
Whereas Back to Black again, it's like 10 songs, 40 minutes. Like you can sit back, and journal or like whatever, and you could eat a meal in the time it takes to listen to that album.
In my research, I like to listen to the albums in different ways. Listen to them through my headphones when I'm working out, or I'll listen to them while I'm at my desk, and I'll play it through my Apple HomePod, or through my headphones. And the only thing that's bad about the short album is sometimes like I'll be listening and then I have to do something and I'm not quite paying attention to the album. And then I'll come back and I'm like, okay, I finished what I was doing. And then the thing is over and I got to restart it again. I was like, wait, I was I just went and did something for 20 minutes and it's over. I got to turn it on again. Okay. Now, my what ifs question. We like to ask what if on this pod. Now, obviously, uh, even if she doesn't pass away when she does, she's obviously very sick. She's addicted to lots of different things. I mentioned the bulimia aspect of this, which is not really mentioned as much, though was a focal point of the documentary. Um, so there's things going on with her that even if she doesn't pass, she's going to be working through a lot of stuff to get right. But let's say she gets right. Obviously, hypothetical, could never happen. She passed away, but just thinking in that what if space. The 2010s, Adele, Taylor, Rihanna, Beyonce, a very well and healthy Amy is right there with all of them and might be cleaning up, on all of them. Um,
She is certainly making qualitatively better records than all of them. Out of all of those singers, look, they're all talented.
yes.
You know, I don't know if any of them other than Amy could like write a track, play on it, and sing it by herself.
Yes.
Um, and she just had like she had like her writing was clever. Um, she knew how to uh she knew how to write like a funny lyric or like an emotionally impactful lyric or whatever. Like I think she was just kind of head and shoulders above her well, she didn't really have any competition at that time. um I strangely don't think Adele becomes as successful if Amy Winehouse had lived.
If that's her competition.
Yeah.
Her idea of what of the sound that she wanted for her stuff is most definitely a throwback sound. It's like a throwback sound, but also trying to sound like a version of today's music at the same time.
Right.
And, we are going through this time period in hip hop, a little bit before that, but it's starting to phase out, which is this idea of sampling and speeding up like these really old R&B and soul tunes.
Hmm.
And so I wonder, like, how much um influence, because she's definitely a hip hop fan. Nas was her favorite artist. She's working with Salaam Remi, who understands that genre very well. Like, there's this interesting time period of like hip hop, earlier, a little bit earlier than Amy, but using this style of old school music and speeding it up and making it new. And then she's even going further back in some ways, and she's changing the culture and the style in which she's dressing and such. But and then making it kind of new. I always thought that was kind of interesting, and I don't even know if there's a point that I'm making, but just hip hop is going this way, Amy's going this way. John Legend would come out with an album that we both really enjoy that is like a throwback soul album as well. But that time frame,
Using some of the same samples
yeah,
on Amy's album too.
yeah. So just an interesting time period, and I don't know that music itself and what we hear today will go back that way. Like, I don't really hear a lot of 60s R&B in music today as much. And I don't even know if the people who are making music today would even think about going back, because I don't know if the algorithms would like it as much.
Now, if you're making music for the algorithm, then you know creativity isn't necessarily in your corner.
What
Um,
is the move though? Like, if you wanted to be an Amy Winehouse of today, are you getting laughed off of the streets and you're like, "Come on, you can't do that today?" Or are people going like, "Hey, there is this space of throwback that is not really being paid attention to, and yeah, let's develop something that actually shows that you have a history of what you're talking about here and what you're trying to do." Like, what is that today? I wouldn't even know.
I think there's a space. Particularly, it seems like there's a lot of female British artists that are still kind of going for that throwback. Have like a little bit of a throwback vibe to them. You look at like Ray, or you look at Jessie Ware.
I like
Um,
Ray.
yeah. Uh, there's still like that. There's this artist named Olivia Dean.
Mhm, mhm.
That still exists. And I would imagine all of those artists, when they were teenagers, heard Back to Black and were like, yo, this is crazy.
But can they actually, I mean, are they I don't even know, Imma ask you. Are they popular or are they critically acclaimed?
I think a little of both. Like, how
Okay.
popular can you even be at this point? There is no real such thing as like a mass appeal
Mhm.
type artist anymore. And, you know, look, for all we just said about Amy, that album sold 2 million copies in the US, which isn't super. It's not Taylor Swift numbers, it's not Beyonce numbers. It was moderately successful. It's not even Adele numbers.
Yeah.
Um, so, you know, I think that
Though, if she's healthy and she makes that third album, that thing probably sells
yeah, it
extremely
blows
well.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking, you know, one thing well, a couple of things I was thinking, sort of related to conversations you and I have had in the past. One, there's some similarities to me between Back to Black and Miseducation of Lauryn Hill that I never even
Mhm.
really thought of before.
That's
You
interesting.
know, like the relationship through line, like you know, the troubles that they had afterwards, like so on and so forth. The other part of that I was thinking is I would have loved to have seen an Amy Winehouse D'Angelo duet.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Like
And
that would have
and
been
I
insane.
it could have happened because we know that she was close to Questlove.
Questlove, yep,
So, wow. That is that is a fantastic what if there, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah.
All right. That is all that we have for Back to Black here. Not gonna really do a top 5, which we are putting up as, like, separate things because she's only got,
2 albums,
2, yeah, and
3,
so, there's not a ton of stuff to kind of, like, grab from, but,
mhm,
the, podcast, feeds are out there and the YouTube page is up. 50for50.net is where you can find everything. So if you're just like, I don't know where to go, like just go to 50for50.net because all
right,
the videos, all the podcasts, as well as Mike's written reviews of the albums that we're talking about, all up there. Support that if you can. And if you are on YouTube, definitely throw us a subscribe. If you are on some of these podcast feeds, Apple Podcasts specifically, Spotify, I can see it too. But if you drop like reviews, and give us a 5-star review, we'll read it on air. So we really appreciate that. And this is we're still very early in the game. We have so many
yep.
albums
So
left
many
to
albums, so
go.
many years. And look, even if you're like I've been I've been consuming a fair amount of YouTube lately. If you leave a comment on any one of our videos, I will personally respond if it's a nice comment.
Yeah. No, yeah, that is 100%. So, appreciate y'all. This is a very important project, for me and Mike to get through and,
And one thing that should really come out of this, you know, that I don't know that we've talked about yet, is like you should listen to this record if you have not listened to
yes.
it before.
Yes. Yes. Like, every record, every album that we're talking about, uh, it is there is a value to it, not only to us, but also to kind of like the history of music and the art form and the artist. And that's part of what we like doing is we like going down rabbit holes and we like looking up trivia and trying to find information. Like, and today, Mike made a comment about the internet. There are good things about the internet. There are also lots of bad things about the internet. But one of the things that I love about the internet is you will find nuggets of things if you
Oh yeah,
search, if you can do the searches I was just like, "Huh, cherry wine. I wonder what was going on." Now, I didn't double source the information or whatever, so, I wanted to state that fact before, like, it's just people talking, right? It's just people
right.
writing about stuff, and so that's what we're using. But, yeah, so we're gonna find the nuggets and we're gonna find some fun trivia. And if I can surprise Mike with stuff, that means like I'm digging deep. I'm going deep down the rabbit hole because Mike has a lot of this knowledge just in his brain. So it's what makes this show fun. All right, we got another one done. Appreciate all y'all for listening. For Mike, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace
Peace.
out.